Movie Memories, brought to you by DanDanTheArtman.com. Episode 6 by Dave Robison. The Man Who Would Be King, or How John Huston Saved My Life, by Dave Robison. John Huston saved my life. It was 1982, and I was flailing my way through my freshman year of college at the University of Michigan, wondering what the hell I was doing. I was studying theater because I was good at it, like the Latino kids taking Spanish as their foreign language in high school back in Cheyenne, but I didn't have a plan. I figured I didn't need one. Someone would see just how charming and talented I was, and I wouldn't have to actually work again. That was my goal, to not do anything I didn't want to do. To achieve that goal, I'd emotionally sabotage any project or goal that involved more work than my feeble commitment could endure, or investing the bare minimum effort that would allow me to move forward. Life beyond next week was uninteresting and irrelevant, so I never really looked beyond the next few days. My checkbook was overdrawn again, and the bank fees for all the bounced checks I'd been writing totaled in the hundreds of dollars. That old joke, I can't be overdrawn, I still have checks, was the gospel truth for my freshman self. When money came from home, I'd settle my accounts and be broke again, thus rebooting the whole vicious cycle. I'd just donated plasma and had $10 in my pocket and a fresh pack of Marlboro Lights. I couldn't even commit to smoking full cigarettes. I was feeling flush, but as I walked down State Street, the gray chill of the day made me huddle in on myself. My mind followed my body's lead. Thoughts turning inward are never a good idea for someone as messed up as I was. I knew what I was doing, recognized the patterns of shallow destruction I was wrecking on my life. College was an opportunity, an expensive opportunity, and my parents had sacrificed a lot to make it possible. I remember physically wincing at the thought and guilt hollowing out my insides. I flinched away, shaking it off, and looked up. It was early afternoon, but the clouds had dimmed the light enough to trip the sensor on the sign over the State Street Theater. Bulbs glowed warm, and the marquee shone in white neon relief. Michael Caine, Sean Connery, The Man Who Would Be King, 2-6. It was just before 2 o'clock. I had money, lungs full of nicotine, it was cold, and I was feeling sorry for myself. I flicked the cigarette into the gutter, hoping I looked like James Dean, knowing I didn't, and went inside. The State Street Theater was an old theater with thick carpeting, lots of columns and dark wood panels and brass accents. Everything was worn and a little threadbare, tarnished and sagging under the burden of its long tenure as a movie theater, but I liked that. The discolored edges of the brass meant 1,000 hands had worn away the factory gilt over the years to expose the metal underneath. The shoes scuffing the carpet, shoulders brushing the textured wallpaper, spilled drinks, faded colors. It gave the place substance and validated its existence. Look at all I've endured, and I'm still here. My ticket purchase broke the $10 bill into a smaller stack of ones. It had more substance, but I felt significantly less flush, so I strolled past the concessions counter and went straight to the theater. One theater, not a partitioned multiplex of cinematic indulgence, single tall widescreen rising against a sea of velvety maroon seats. There were maybe 20 people in the entire theater. I sat in the precious middle seat and waited. The theater dimmed to dark, the screen flickered with light, and the movie began. To sum up without spoilers, a couple of rogues, Peachy Carnahan and Daniel Dravitz, feel the British Empire had gotten too small for the likes of them and strike into the heart of unexplored India to become kings. They're tested in many ways, achieve their goal, discover an even more mind-boggling opportunity, seize it, and then fall from grace. It's a tragedy, a cautionary tale of the dangers of hubris. Connery and Caine were their usual selves. I don't consider either of them brilliant actors, but they are honest actors, and that honesty and authenticity is, I suppose, a kind of brilliance. It was while watching this movie that they were added to the very short list of my favorite actors. I related to their characters as only an arrogant college freshman can. That's me, I remember thinking, as the plot of the movie was revealed. The world is too small for me, too, even though I had yet to accomplish anything more significant than debt and a few roles in some academic stage productions. But Huston's gift as a filmmaker was the authenticity with which he told his larger-than-life stories. As the saga unfolded across stark, sweeping vistas, scenes barely framed by the enormous screen threatening to burst the edges with their grandeur, my post-adolescent hubris was silenced by a beautifully told story. To become truly lost in something, to the extent that your entire sense of self is extinguished for a time, can be a powerful and liberating experience. I think we all acquire emotional gunk as we go through our lives. Comfortable repetitions, even more comfortable lies and delusions, little tiny compromises and concessions we make all build up gradually, coating the framework of who and what we are, or are trying to be. Some of it might grease the machine, but most of it hides the shiny foundational gridwork that lies at our core. In those moments immediately after losing yourself utterly, you are given a fleeting moment of clarity. The coat of junk has been lifted off you, and now, as you return to yourself, you can see and feel it settling back, filling the crevasses of your spirit, coating once more the gleam of your best parts. I'd love to say that I was like Scrooge after his visitations, that I cast off my gunk coat, leapt from my seat, called my parents begging their forgiveness, took 2 jobs to pay my debt, and still finished college with a 3.8 GPA. I didn't. I let that coat of emotional, self-gratifying indulgence settle back over me like an addict welcomes the drug. But I saw it. I saw the gunk. I saw what it was and what it was doing to me, and I briefly saw the gleam that it had hidden. John Huston showed me 2 criminals who, through sheer determination and belief in their personal mythology of glorious destiny, stumble upon a profound truth only to lose it and be damned for it. In telling that story, Huston gave me a chance to look at mine. Seeing this movie was my first realization that we all have might and glory inside us, that the key to our destiny lies squarely in the choices we make and our reactions to the hardships we face. With that conviction, I found a small bit of solid ground to stand upon. With that fragile foothold, my life started to move towards what it has become, and I wouldn't have it any other way. Dave Robison has indulged in creative pursuits his entire life. His CV includes writing Curious George fan fiction at the age of 8, improv theater at 10, playing trumpet at age 12, as well as a theater degree, creating magazine cover art, writing audio scripts, designing websites, creating board games, hosting mythological roundtables, and generally savoring the sweet draught of expression in all its forms. His years of exploration gave him a unique, informed, and eloquent perspective on the art of storytelling. He is also a co-host of the Roundtable podcast, where he, his co-host Brian Humphrey, and a guest author listen to a guest writer spin their tale and then workshop it until they achieve literary gold. Dave is also involved with the super fun Protecting Project Pulp. You can find the Roundtable podcast at roundtablepodcast.com, Protecting Project Pulp at protectingprojectpulp.com, and you can follow Dave on Twitter at Writers Podcast. I want to thank Dave for this heartfelt post. It was really deep and really awesome. So thank you, Dave, for putting yourself out there and serving up this awesome guest post for us. It's pretty cool taking a little trip down memory lane. You never know what you're going to discover, eh, Dave? I'm a huge fan of Dave's podcasting, and he and Brian on the Roundtable podcast are doing some epic work for writers. So go on there, check it out. If you haven't, you're really missing out. I've got to say it's at the top of the heap for writing podcasts. Every time I listen, I get some little gem of literary gold, however that works. And I get a lot out of it as a writer, and it's also really entertaining. Dave and Brian are awesome hosts. And the guest author that comes on is always cool. And then you hear another guest writer, so there's 4 guys workshopping and chopping apart a story idea until it shines. It's just an awesome process that really helps you learn a lot about storytelling and writing an awesome story. So check that out. Check out Protecting Project Pulp. And thanks again to Dave. Sorry that this came out in the feed a little late in the day. Come on back to dandantheartman.com next Friday for another awesome guest blog post on movie memories. And until next time, we'll see you at the movies. Sounds for the intro and outro are from the Free Sound Project, found at freesound.org. This podcast is licensed under a Creative Commons Attribution Non-Commercial No Derivative Works 3.0 International License.